Hello and welcome to the Hotel News Now podcast. I am Trevor Simpson, Associate Editor with CoStar News Hotels, and I'm joined today by Colin Sherman, Director of Hospitality Market Analytics for CoStar Group in Texas and the U.S. South. Colin, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing, Trevor?
I'm doing great. So, you recently attended the Extended Stay Hotel Forum in Atlanta last week. So, that's going to be the topic of discussion today. You wrote up some interesting CoStar insight pieces that everyone should go and check out. But just to get started, how was the conference overall for you, Colin?
Yeah, the extended stay forum is really good. I think it's a great chance for industry experts in that niche segment to get together and talk about the extended stay model. IMN has put this together now for the third year, hosting it first in New York, then Dallas, and now Atlanta. And it's something that kind of came out of COVID due to the interest and the usefulness of extended stay properties as we were all trying to figure out what was going on, and also as a way to combine, business and leisure, where a lot of corporate travelers would take those extended stay, week long, 2 week long trips, and so there was a very distinct need for it, and there still is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you bring up a good point about how the extended stay sector sort of blew up out of COVID, and it's an interesting time to sort of reevaluate where the sector is now 5 years later. Um, so, in one of your pieces, you mentioned how there's been a little bit of pressure on RevPAR. Extended stay supply was up 4% year over year in the first quarter in terms of rooms, and occupancy was down from 74% to 70%. Do you think the pressure on RevPAR in the sector is mostly due to this supply growth?
Yeah, I think there's the added pressure of supply, but also just in general demand as well. So I can't say it's fully supply. There's been some normalcy coming back to the extended stay sector, as with traditional hotels that we're seeing. So that also is a major component of that RevPAR downgrade. And also, just as we've heard over and over again, kind of the volatile macroeconomic environment that we're in as well is another product.
So, how has that economic uncertainty due to tariffs or whatever it is, how is that affecting the sector right now, and how does that project to affect the sector moving forward?
Yeah, and I'll kind of talk about the extended stay forum. I asked that very question to a group of panelists and executives, and we really got on to what was really driving some of that. And I think it's the same things that are driving the hotel, or not driving, but driving some of the uncertainty in the hotel industry and other industries as well, which you can just count, on all 10 fingers. But tariffs is one. I think another major topic that we discussed was the CHIPS Act and Infrastructure Act. I think I blatantly asked one of the panelists, okay, is that still happening? And
Yeah,
because we haven't really heard about it. And being that, with Doge coming in and cutting and government efficiency, that's been a big factor as well. I think the softening of the industry, and it's not. I wouldn't say it's too bad because it's still doing quite well. But the softening does come from all those macroeconomic factors that are playing into it. And on the Infrastructure and Chips Act, to kind of get back to that, there was a lot of kind of questions or scratching of the heads as well, but from a lot of the panelists, and they were saying, well, it's kind of, we don't really know. We know that projects are still ongoing, but we don't know the future of it. I
right.
think one of the panelists said, I used to follow the Infrastructure Act's website because it had a lot of information and would keep him updated. But he said since January, that information and data has not been updated on their website.
Mm,
So I think that gives you a pretty good indication of where, where things stand and where the uncertainty is, at least in that regard.
yeah.
On the tariffs, not so much. I wouldn't say that was a huge topic. They know that those impacts will affect construction. That's what they're seeing is really that construction side and the development side of tariffs or of their projects being impacted. And then there's also labor, which
Right.
is also a major factor, as in, where we've had the immigration policies coming in place and that kind of securitized labor. Where are they going to get their labor from? Now, the extended stay sector is in a lot better position than traditional hotels because they rely a lot less on some labor needs, but
Sure.
still it's an issue, and it's something that they're always trying to find. And also, as they predict demand to go up or forecast demand to go up for extended stay, um, they're going to need labor to clean those rooms. They're going to need labor to pretty much keep up with that demand. So that's also kind of in flux at the moment. Um, and I think one of the panelists commented, it's always in flux, but it feels like there's just added pressure to the
Right.
to the labor factors as well.
Yeah.
Other macroeconomic, or I should say macroeconomic variables, is there was a lot of talk around the border states, uh, Canada and Mexico, with some of the immigration policies that are going on, and also the imposed tariffs on Mexico and Canada that has really kind of put a little bit of dampening on cross-border travel.
Yeah.
And those extended stay hotels that are located on the border in the border areas, particularly El Paso and San Diego, as one executive noted, yeah, they definitely are feeling some of the impacts from that. I also asked, because we did see a pretty good rise, I think, roughly around. We did see performance and RevPAR performance around 1.5, well, almost 2%, or an increase of 2% in February. And it was pretty dramatic because ADR also lifted about 2.5%. And I asked the very question, why was that? Because it was just a little bit of an uplift in performance from the previous month, and no one could really attribute what that was. They didn't think that it was the what is it, the front loading,
Yeah.
as manufacturers were anticipating tariffs. That's what I thought it was, and that could be part of it. But what they thought most of the lift was in the first quarter was the troops coming down to the border,
Mm,
after the inauguration. We saw, in Texas, we saw the Texas National Guard enter El Paso and a few other border areas. And we also saw U.S. Military also enter and to enforce its immigration policies. That has since kind of backed off a little bit, according to the experts I spoke to. But that did create quite a lift in extended stays in those border areas, as troops needed that short-term housing,
right.
for I guess at the time they didn't really know how long they were going to be there. So
Yeah.
those rooms were all booked up, which was pretty interesting. And that was
Yeah.
actually confirmed from Destination El Paso, the CVB down there, their CEO or president, actually confirmed that was a major lift to extended stay hotels, was the troop deployments.
That is really interesting because that's not something you would think of just sort of off the top of your head. So it sounds like the sector is dealing with a lot of variables that's not unlike the rest of the hotel industry at large. One of the points that you made in one of your stories that I thought was interesting, when you were talking about the supply growth from year to year, how the supply growth in the first quarter of this year indicates confidence from 2023 when they were first planning building hotels and such, and now it's starting to, bear the fruits of the labor. What do you think the confidence level is right now as we look ahead to future supply growth in the sector?
I think it mirrors what we're seeing as in the hotel industry as a whole. Um, we're really starting to see more projects stay in that initial or final planning stage, as opposed to crossing over into under development. And that's a product, again, of uncertainty. And I will say that, nothing is for certain. So it's really hard to say, oh, this uncertainty is causing all this
Right.
softness, because really, truly, nothing. We don't really know. But it's that risk,
Yeah.
that when you start adding other factors to an already uncertain environment, it just makes it. And I don't even know if this is the correct term. It just makes it that much more uncertain. So that kind of that risk just keeps growing a little bit higher.
Yeah.
So at least on the supply front, we're still seeing a pretty good. We're still seeing about the same amount that we forecasted in the extended stay pipeline, particularly as new brands have come online. It's just we're not seeing those crossover to under construction as
Gotcha.
quickly as we have in the last few years.
And then when we're splitting it between different scales, so supply increase was pretty similar when you're comparing middle tier and upper scale, upper or extended stay new builds, but demand was up 5% for upper scale compared to 3% for mid scale. Why is upper scale extended stay properties, or why are they enjoying more demand success than middle tier hotels right now?
Yeah, and I want to be clear, middle tier extended stay hotels, we can call those economy
Yeah,
scale hotels. Um, still they're still still have your upper tier, and we'll just call them middle tier.
yeah,
Uh, so to answer your question, I think with the upper tier hotels, we're still seeing a drive of corporate demand. That is in those upper tier properties that have a few more amenities. That's really, I think, the difference. I think it comes down to amenities. And when we look at some of the recent quarterly earnings calls, uh, the corporate demand side is what's really driving the extended stay sector, and that is because of manufacturing. That's also because of traveling healthcare. I think a portion of that, yes, is because of the Infrastructure Act that is still that's still kind of unfolding. The infrastructure being developed for semiconductors is all part of that, and those that are traveling on that corporate scale, they want the amenities. They want the smaller kitchenettes. They want the nicer accommodations. Um, they also probably they probably want the even smaller amenities like grabbing the paper in the morning and a breakfast. So I think that's what's driving upper scale, but it is also the corporations that are or corporations that are paying their employees to go to these. So
right.
there's that kind of divide of, well, if I have the chance to stay somewhere nicer, that's where I'm going to stay.
Yeah,
If there's an option, and it does come down to the same. Uh, and we've used this so many times in the last year, but it's that bifurcation effect.
yeah,
So a lower end economy is just softer than the upper scale. So with those that have the means to travel to the upper scale are going to continue. Those that are probably going to be, or at least in the income level that require an economy scale, yeah, they're probably going to back out a little bit, or it's going to be very selective on that front.
all right, Colin. Those were all the questions that I had.
All right. Well, Trevor, thank you so much.
Colin, thank you.
Hi, I'm STR's Isaac Colazo.
And I'm CoStar's Jan Freitag. And together we are the data geeks behind Tell Me More, a hospitality data podcast on the Hotel News Now podcast network.
Every month, we bring you a fresh take on the latest hotel data, insights into the travel trends behind that performance, and the big picture topics you should be thinking about.
And we also don't mind getting into some good-natured disagreement from time to time. Hey, when Isaac and I start talking data together, anything can happen. And it usually does.
Find us on hotelnewsnow.com and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen. Search for Hotel News Now, and thank you for listening.
This episode of the Hotel News Now podcast was recorded on May 19th, 2025 and edited by Trevor Simpson. For all the latest hotel industry news, go to hotelnewsnow.com every day.